Hey, it's great to have you back here with me again. If you're new, welcome. And if you've been following the channel for a while, I really appreciate you being here. Today we're diving into another chapter of history that was never meant to be remembered. Experiments so dangerous, so unethical, and so disturbing that they were forced to be erased, hidden, or permanently banned. This isn't just about science. This is about the moment knowledge crossed the line. For centuries, scientific progress has been driven by curiosity, ambition, and the relentless desire to understand the unknown. But sometimes, that desire goes too far. Throughout history, there have been experiments so controversial, so unethical, or so dangerous that authorities were forced to shut them down forever. Not because they failed, but because they succeeded in the worst possible way. These are experiments that pushed beyond morality, beyond safety, and beyond what humanity was prepared to face. Today, we explore 10 banned experiments that were simply too dangerous to continue. One of the most infamous is the Stanford prison experiment conducted in 1971. This psychological study aimed to understand how people behave when given power over others. Volunteers were assigned roles as prisoners or guards in a simulated prison environment. What started as a controlled experiment quickly spiraled into a nightmare. The guards became increasingly abusive, while the prisoners showed signs of emotional breakdown, extreme stress, and psychological trauma. Within just 6 days, the experiment was shut down. What it revealed was terrifying: how quickly normal individuals could transform when placed in positions of authority. The study was later condemned for its ethical violations and is now used as a warning of what should never be repeated. Another experiment that crossed every boundary was Project MK-Ultra. Conducted by the CIA during the Cold War, this secret program attempted to explore mind control through the use of drugs, hypnosis, and psychological manipulation. Subjects were often unaware they were even part of an experiment. Some were given hallucinogens without consent, while others were subjected to intense sensory deprivation or psychological conditioning. The program operated in secrecy for years until public investigations exposed it. The government eventually admitted its existence, but most records were destroyed. MK-Ultra remains one of the darkest examples of scientific power used without humanity. In the 1940s, another experiment shocked the world: the monster study. Conducted on orphaned children, researchers attempted to induce stuttering by constantly criticizing the way children spoke. Those who had no speech issues were made anxious, withdrawn, and fearful of speaking altogether. The psychological damage lingered for years. The experiment was never published at the time due to its disturbing nature and was officially condemned decades later. It stands as a painful reminder of how vulnerable populations were exploited in the name of science. Even more disturbing were the Soviet head transplant experiments. Researchers attempted to keep severed animal heads alive by connecting them to artificial circulation systems. The goal was to explore life preservation and advanced transplantation. What they created instead were moments of horrifying animation, where detached heads responded to light and sound. These experiments were quickly deemed inhumane and unethical, and any continuation was permanently banned. Then there was the Tuskegee syphilis study in the United States. For 40 years, African American men suffering from syphilis were observed without being informed of their condition or offered treatment, even after a cure became available. Researchers wanted to see how the disease progressed naturally. The men were told they were being treated, but in reality, they were being watched as their health deteriorated. When the truth finally emerged, the scandal reshaped medical ethics worldwide and became one of the most infamous examples of human experimentation gone wrong. In another chilling case, scientists conducted extreme sensory deprivation experiments. Subjects were placed in silent, lightless rooms for extended periods, isolated from all stimulation. Within hours, hallucinations began. Within days, mental stability collapsed entirely. Subjects experienced paranoia, time distortion, and profound psychological trauma. These experiments revealed just how fragile the human mind truly is when stripped of sensory input. The practice was eventually banned due to irreversible psychological damage. During the early atomic era, secret radiation experiments were conducted on unsuspecting patients. Radioactive substances were introduced without informed consent in an attempt to understand radiation exposure on the human body. The consequences were devastating: illness, suffering, and long-term health effects. When these programs were exposed, global outrage led to immediate prohibition and reinforced the requirement of informed consent in medical research. Another forbidden path involved early attempts at genetic manipulation aimed at creating enhanced humans. Though heavily classified, leaks suggested secret military interest in accelerated regeneration and cognitive enhancement. The unpredictable biological results, however, forced governments to shut the projects down immediately. Today, international law strictly forbids any experimentation involving forced human genetic alteration. Scientists also experimented with cross-species genetic blending in attempts to explore evolutionary possibilities. While some research advanced biological understanding, certain projects crossed into territory that threatened ecological stability and ethical boundaries. These experiments were quietly terminated and sealed from public knowledge. Finally, researchers attempted to manipulate human perception of time by using electrical stimulation and sensory interference. Subjects reported reality distortion, memory fragmentation, and permanent cognitive disruption. These experiments were deemed psychologically hazardous, with lasting consequences that could not be undone. They were immediately halted and outlawed. What all these experiments share is not just their danger, but the realization that science without ethics becomes something else entirely. Knowledge without conscience turns discovery into destruction. Over time, strict laws, review boards, and international ethical standards were created to prevent these horrors from ever happening again. They were stopped, not because curiosity faded, but because humanity realized it had gone too far. And the most unsettling question of all is this: how many experiments were never discovered? How many were buried before the world could react? And how many might still be hidden behind locked doors, classified files, and erased names? Because sometimes, the most dangerous discoveries are the ones that were never meant to be known.